There are so many people in need, and oftentimes we get an amazing opportunity to minister to people. But sometimes there is just like we need to be ministered to. But so today we're going to have a conversation about ministering to those in need and also as it pertains to you getting your needs met. So, welcome back to another episode of the You, Me, and Jesus podcast, where we talk about all things you, me, and Jesus, because we're here on this earth living this life and trying to figure out how to do it with God and with ourselves. So, if my voice sounds a little weird today, it's because I have something going on with my throat, and we are just navigating that as we record today's episode. So, again, we're talking about ministering to people in need. And I'm glad that I chose this topic because I just had an opportunity to minister to people last week. So the church that I'm a part of, they were doing what's called a worship night. I think it took place from 7 to 10, and then there was a room where people could come to throughout the entire night and receive prophetic words. And so I was on the prophetic words team, and we would sit, hear God, and share with them what we believe that God was saying to them. And so, for me, anytime I am going to any kind of thing like that, Lord, where someone is wanting me to hear God with them, pray with them, or whatever, it's always very humbling, because we aren't God, right? And but they're coming to us, and often there is this hope, there's this anticipation of what they are going to receive when they get there, right? Like they want something life changing or life altering or to hear something they haven't heard before, whatever. I know that's how I feel. When I sit down and someone's going to prophesy over me, oftentimes I feel hope. I'm like, what am I going to hear today? It's like, am I getting ready to walk through a breakthrough? We all have these like moments. And so that's what I feel like the excitement of other people, but I feel the pressure to make sure I have something for them. But here is what I have been learning on this journey, and I'm still learning, is that I am not God. And it is not my responsibility to say anything life changing, life altering. It is not my responsibility. It is not your responsibility. And so we get this awesome, awesome opportunity to partner with God, to seek God and say, God, here is this person sitting here before me. What do you want to say? What do you want this person to know? And this past weekend, well, the weekend before, when we were in the rooms, I was finding myself feeling like, okay, like I can't conjure something up. I don't want to conjure anything up. I don't want to tell somebody something that's not what God wants them to hear. But don't get me wrong, like as I'm saying this, I'm getting a picture of me being in a space with somebody and I was encouraging them in a thing, and I'm sitting here having this moment of like, was that the right thing to say or whatever? But my whole thing with that is that I am not God. I don't get it 100% wrong. I don't get it 100% right. But I will do my best. I'll do my best to seek God, hear God, share what he's saying, and not put my own thoughts and feelings on it, my own hopes and dreams on it, if that makes sense. So when I think about us ministering to people in need, what I look at that as is that we are Jesus's feet, right? We are his hand and his feet, and we are his mouth. And if we, prior to ministering to people, are in a relationship with God, then it's going to make ministering a lot easier. So for me, when I was headed to the event where we were going to prophesy over people, I had this moment where I was just like, do I need to be praying a lot before? Should I have fasted? Man, maybe I shouldn't have worked today so I could be sharp. I could hear God clear. I had all these like thoughts that I was having. And, you know, I think that God had come to me and basically was just like, hey, listen, you and I have a good relationship. You and I have a great relationship. You don't need to perform. You don't need to have done anything else besides just come here. Because when you're not ministering to people, we are in communication together. And as I kind of stood there in the group, because I was very new to everybody, like I've never heard any of them prophesy. They've never heard me prophesy before, any of that. And so it was, it was what it was, But I just felt like I was hearing him say, like, this is not about performance. That, like, if there is something to be said, I'm going to say it to you or to somebody else in the room, and it's going to be just fine. And I was like, okay. So I remember sitting down and just knowing that the first person was going to come to receive prophetic. I can't remember who the first person was. I cannot remember. But I think it was 2 members of our team that came up to us. And when they sat down, I immediately started hearing things. I immediately started seeing things. And I was just like, oh. And prior to sitting there, I hadn't heard, seen anything. But in that moment, it was like, God was like, I turn it on. Let me show you what I want you to tell this person. And I just remember being like, oh, it's just that easy. And of course, when the day was over, what I realized is like, no, it's just that easy, because it's not about me. It's not about me having the most outlandish things to say or life-shattering things. But it's more about me having a relationship with God. And so when I think about us ministering to people in need, I think that it is easy when we have our own regular, intimate relationship with God. Now, I can't say that I'm always in my house slinging oil like I can't say I'm always doing that in my house by any means. I can't say that I've been to all these worship encounters and all that. I haven't done any of that lately. But what I have been doing consistently is talking to him on a regular basis. And what do I mean by that? Some days it's me getting time where I journal, I pray, I cry and all that. Some days it's me driving in a car and I just start speaking in tongues while I'm driving. Some days it's me showering and shaving my chin hairs and all this stuff, and then I'm just like speaking in tongues sometimes. Other times it's when I just have a brief moment and I just say, God, is there something you want to say about this? Like that literally happened today because the House of Representatives voted to ban TikTok or whatever. And I teach people TikTok marketing. And I was just like, I hadn't had a moment today for whatever reason. I was the reason. And I just kind of sat and I just pushed my keyboard and I was just like, God, what do you want to say about this? And he just talked to me just a little bit, and that was it. And I just kept going in my day. And I'm just realizing and telling you that God is always with us. He's always walking with us, talking with us, and all that stuff. And when it comes to trying to minister to people that are in need, it is easy when we're already one with the Savior. When He's already a part of our daily life. Like, I went to Houston last week to go find an apartment because I'm moving to Houston in May, back to Houston in May. And my friend, who's a broker who I reached out to, she offered to help find me a place and all this type of stuff. Great. And when we first got to sit down, she started telling me all this stuff and had happened with her in her life. And I was just listening and just going, wow, just listening. And in that moment, I didn't need to be anything. It was just like, I got to be me, but being me was also being Jesus, like listening, being empathetic and all the things. And like, even now, like as I'm talking to you, I can just get this sense that I should call a florist and I should send her flowers, because she's had 2 people pass away in her family. It's just been a really hard time. And I'm just being reminded that, hey, don't forget, like when we were touring apartments, she's like obsessed with Nutter Butters and she hadn't had them in years. And I had the intent on buying her like a big box of them and getting them sent to her house. And so, but I hadn't done it yet. So I'm like being reminded to go and give her that and then give her flowers. I'm being reminded of a person that was on my team that I had to let go, and I had sent her a birthday card, but it came back because it was just a wrong address. And I'm being reminded that, like, hey, resend that in a different envelope with another note, just encouraging them. It's going to go so far when they receive that from you. And I'm like, okay. And it's like all these kind of little things, you know? And I just realized that like ministering to people it's a lot of different things. Sometimes it is laying hands and praying for people. Sometimes it's prophesying. Other times it's just acknowledging them, being there for them. You don't have anything, you don't have the right things to say, you can't solve their problems. Even if you can, you're not trying to be Jesus and solve their problems, that we're just being there, you know? Um, like, yeah, I want to say so much, but there's different people that listen to my show, and I don't want to like point people out or whatever. Um, but I'm just continuously realizing that ministering to people really just looks like the extension of what our relationship with God looks like. You know, like I have people coming over on Saturday. Well, you're listening to this on Sunday, so yesterday, when I'm recording, you know what I mean? Yesterday for you, and then a couple days from now for me as I'm recording this. And they're coming into my house. I'm going to be cooking lunch for them. And I know I'm going to have an opportunity to minister to them because they're in my house. They're in my safe space. This is my domain. And I know there's going to be an opportunity for me to minister to them in a non-churchy way. And so my responsibility is setting up my house in a way where when they come, they just feel like, wow. Not by how my house looks. Like I have 3 cats. It looks like 3 cats live here and an adult. Okay. So it's not that, but it's how they feel when they come. It's the presence how I treat them when they enter, you know, because what I'm reminded of is that when tough times hit people or when they feel lost or whatever, if I have been consistent in the way that I am and talking about God and my relationship with him, when that time comes, they are going to show up and say, hey, can you help? Can you pray? Can you whatever? The same way that would happen in church. If I'm on the line on the prayer team and somebody comes up to the line for prayer, it's the exact same thing. That it's really more about what I'm doing in my relationship with God every single day than what happens on the line or when I'm on the prophetic team or worshiping or whatever. So if you want to be more of Jesus's hands and his feet, then it's more important that you deepen your relationship with God. Like make him your best friend. You know, like God and I have been talking about so much stuff lately, and I'm not happy about what I feel like he's talking to me about. I am not happy about something in my life that is going to happen. But I am with him on it. It's not bad, but it's just not what I want, what I think I want. And it's not bad, but I'm just like, in my present state, I just don't see why I would want that. But because I love him, that's my best friend, I am still like, I'm open. Like, that's not what I want, God, but I'm open. If that's what you're doing, I'm open. This is not saying, God saying me and my ex-husband get back together. This is not that. This is not that. That's not what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. So, but I am saying yes to him, yes to our relationship, yes to him talking to me about whatever it is he wants to talk to me about, and me willingly talking to him about absolutely everything, not holding anything back, and just treating him like a best friend. Because oftentimes we tell our best friends everything. Well, I tell God everything, because it's like my best friend is great and all, but he is way better than she could ever be, and she feels the exact same way about him with her. Okay. So I hope that this was encouraging. I hope that this was insightful. We are trying to grow the show. So it would be so helpful if you would share this with somebody. I would appreciate it, whether it's here on YouTube or you're sharing it on from the podcast. I would love it if you share it because I'm trying to be intentional with growing this and the message of God and all that. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening and watching.